You want to get your first investment property? I promise you, if you just take action and don't quit, you will. Even if you have no money, bad credit, no experience, it doesn't matter. I made it happen, so can you. What's up, y'all? It's Jay. Welcome to Real Recognized Real Estate, where I keep it real about everything in real estate investing. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how I bought my first deal fresh out of college with no money in the bank. Currently, I own 380 units across 6 different states, but when I started, I owned 0. See, in this game, everybody starts at 0. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how I went from 0 to 1. My first deal was actually a partnership on a 6-unit in Brooklyn. Now, when I set out to look for a deal, my first deal, I wasn't thinking to myself I was going to end up with a 6-unit in Brooklyn, New York. But what I've seen in life is that we can make all the plans in the world, but in my experience, how you start is not usually how you're going to end. But you got to start. The key to success is just getting started. One of my favorite quotes is 80% of life is just showing up. If you want to get started in real estate, you just got to get started. You just got to do something. You just got to show up. To be honest, getting started sometimes can seem hard, but it's actually the easiest part and it's the most important part. If you don't get started, you definitely are not going to be successful. So, how did I get started? Well, I always knew I wanted to get into real estate. In particular, I wanted to build a rental portfolio because I like the idea of residual income. Me doing absolutely nothing and me making money sounds good. So I called 2 of my boys at the time and asked them did they want to get in with me on this. They said yes, so we got it popping and we started looking for properties in Trenton, New Jersey. Mainly because at the time, the price point of the properties. In Trenton, you could get properties for the low. So the next challenge was finding financing. Remember, we ain't had no money. Our first shot at trying to get financing, we went to the bank, and the bank that we went to said they didn't even finance investment properties, so they approved us for a $10,000 personal loan. At the time, I didn't know anything about commercial financing, hard money, or how to even finance a fix and flip deal or an investment property. But that didn't stop me from looking. I had nothing to lose, so I figured I'll just figure all that shit out later. And that is honestly the truth, man. And on your journey to success, some stuff you just gotta make a move on and figure out what you don't know later. You gotta be willing to take a risk, man, and put the ball in your own court and make it happen. See, I'm naturally a risk taker, so I usually don't get caught up in overanalyzing things. I'm not afraid just to jump out there and get it going. My problem sometimes is I make a move without having all my ducks in a row, and that can sometimes be a cause of unneeded stress. But me personally, I always have an abundant mindset. I always feel like I'll figure it out, and I will always be better off in the future than I am today. That's just the way I'm wired. So now with the promise of 10 grand from the bank, with this personal loan, we souped up to get started looking for properties. But how are we even gonna find these future rental properties that's gonna make us millions, right? At the time, I didn't know anything about going direct to market, wholesalers, wholesaling. So we started by just finding a realtor, right? We told her what we were looking for, that we're just looking for rental properties in the Trenton area. So she met with us every weekend and showed us properties. We ain't have no direction, no thought out criteria. It's kind of crazy. Now that I remember all this, I think we were just looking at buying something that we could actually afford and it wasn't too crazy to fix up. We weren't looking at running numbers, cash on cash returns, none of that. Looking back, this was actually a recipe for disaster, but I'm just saying, like, I'll keep it real with y'all how I got my first deal and how I got started. You know, I had read some real estate books, but I remember out of all the books and all the stuff I was looking at on the internet, one thing stuck with me, the 1% rule. And I was trying to just make sure that whatever we bought at least adhered to the 1% rule, which basically says that the going rent of the property should be at least 1% of the all-in price of the property, the purchase and the rehab. So now let's fast forward 6 months later. Every weekend, going out to Trenton, looking at properties, meeting up every week, right? Not really knowing what we're doing. We finally found a duplex for I think it was like 30 G's. And the seller was willing to work with us on the financing, right? Seller financing. It needed massive amounts of work, but because the seller was willing to finance the deal, we were going to use the personal loan the bank approved for us for a $5,000 down payment with him. And then we were going to use the other $5,000 and good old-fashioned hard work to knock out the rehab, sweat equity. At least that was the plan. During this 6 months, really looking back, I never really got discouraged because we weren't finding anything. So if you're not finding stuff, just keep going. I just remember touring properties with my boys when we was having fun. 6 months really honestly just blew by, and we finally found something that looked like we could actually make it work. Now my boy's father was in construction, so I asked my boy, I said, yo, ask your pop if he could come down and take a look at this property for us before we buy it. His pop comes down, right? Said the building, the outside, the guts was good, but basically the entire inside needed to be gutted. But while we were looking at the property and seeing what needed to be done during this time, we also started talking business, and I started telling my man's pop what I was trying to do, telling him the vision. After us talking for a little while, he ends up wanting to partner with me and said instead of looking down here in Trenton, would I be interested in partnering with him and his son on a rental property in Brooklyn, because they both lived in Brooklyn, New York, and already owned a rental property in Brooklyn, New York. Now, this was the part of my first deal you really can't explain. You could call it luck, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I was just in the right place at the right time. Really, they say that luck is just when opportunity meets preparation. I had been putting in the work for 6 months, not knowing what was going to happen, right? Just every weekend, looking at properties. These are the situations you really can't read about in a book or predict, but I said I would keep it real. It's just you getting out there doing something, and then the right opportunity comes in, you ready for it. If I wasn't out there looking, this wouldn't have happened, you feel me? So when his father said he wanted to partner up with me, of course I said yes. This was the missing piece. We needed capital and someone who had experience with rehabs. He wanted someone who was willing to take care of the business side of things, and he felt I had the drive and determination to be successful. His father felt that I added value, and of course him and his son added value, and that's what makes a successful team. All a team is people coming together who add value to each other and will allow each other to accomplish what we couldn't do on our own, right? We started looking in Brooklyn. Within, I think it was 2-3 months, we found a 6-unit. We had looked at a quad that ain't really make sense. We found a six unit, and we closed about 4 months later. I'm thinking in my mind, when we closed, I couldn't even believe it, man. And then we didn't know how to get lawyers, but the broker who helped us find the property linked us with a lawyer who helped us set up our corporation, linked us with commercial bank so that we could finance the deal. My man's pop took care of the rehab, and eventually we filled the place with tenants and started making money. Things were definitely rough in the beginning. I had to drive to New York. I live in New Jersey. I had to drive to New York every weekend for over a year to help work on the building. There was always a challenge to overcome, but eventually things got better, and the price of the building would eventually triple, which allowed me to refi out and use the cash to do more deals. Successes. Looking back at my first deal, what are things I felt I did right? Number 1, the most important thing is I just got started. Number 2, even though I couldn't find anything, right? Number 2, I did not quit. It took 9 months before I found my first deal and a little over a year before I closed on it. I did not try to figure out every minute detail out from the beginning. At the end, everything just worked out. But there were a lot of challenges in that middle part. But I kept going and ended up doing a lot better with my first deal than I could have ever imagined. I was prepared, and I put myself in a situation to take advantage of an opportunity when it presented itself. Number 3, I wasn't afraid to partner up for a common goal. Real estate is a team sport. If you get the right team together, you'll do a whole lot better than trying to go it alone. By teaming up, I was able to get a 6-unit on my first deal, right? Finding a team is not hard to do. Just focus on how you can add value and people will want to work with you. There's this African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. One thing that has helped me scale my portfolio to 380 units is because I was able to leverage the power of my team and my network. Now let's talk. I talked about the things I felt like I did good, but what could I have done better? Looking back on that deal, the first thing I could have done better is I could have understood my underwriting better. I was flying by the seat of my pants and really didn't understand the numbers the way I should have. So learn the numbers, learn how to underwrite a deal, understand how to see if a deal's profitable, looking at cash on cash returns and different metrics that you use to evaluate deals. Understand how you're going to be profitable in a deal. Then the second thing I could have did better is, honestly, I didn't plug myself into a larger real estate community. We had our team, But we struggled a lot in the beginning. You know, I should have networked more, tried to be part of a community of other investors, of like-minded people. We probably went through a whole lot of things we didn't have to just because we weren't networking with people. So my advice is to try to build your network early on, always focusing on how you can add value and what you can bring to the table. And that is how I bought my first deal, fresh out of college with no money in the bank. I decided to share my experience on hoping that it will inspire and encourage someone who is just getting started, right? If you have a crazy or interesting story about your first deal, or if you're in the process of finding your first deal, I would love to know. Please comment below. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more.